To solve this challenge, first we must go to the Genexus IDE. There, we click on the menu options, Tools, Genexus Access Manager, Update Connection File. This runs the GAM deploy tool. Here we must use the GAM administrator credentials, which are GAM admin and GAM admin 123. It lists the connections to the repositories that we can include. We select all of them and generate by selecting to overwrite the current connection file. Once the change is done, we can access the GAM web backend again. Once inside, the first step is to go to Repository Configuration. Among the available options, we'll set the repository to work as GAM Manager, which allows us to manage different repositories from this one. Next, we go to Repositories, where we will add the branches requested by the challenge instructions. We enter the name of the first one, and the next thing to configure would be the namespace. The authentication approach that we'll use is that the current repository works as the master authentication for the users of the different branches. To do so, we select the option Use the current repository as the authentication master repository, which by default uses the namespace of the current repository. The next thing to configure is the type of authentication that we want the repository to use. Remember, we had two, custom and local. We'll use local. And lastly, we enable the following option, which indicates that the user is the administrator of the new repository, which is exactly what we want. We confirm the creation and repeat the process for the second branch. Once we have both branches, we switch to one of the newly created branches. If we go to the users list, we can see that only the administrator user is activated, since it's the only active user in this repository at the moment, and it's the one who administers it. The rest are all disabled. Also, note in the upper right corner that the current repository has changed. As requested in this challenge, we're going to add two users to this branch, Dave and Nate. To do so, we need to edit each one and select Enable in Repository. Note that Dave is now listed as enabled for this repository. We do the same for Nate. We repeat the previous process, but with branch 2 and the other two users. Once the users are assigned in each repository, we close the session and try to access the application again. We are asked to log in, and as an example, we'll use Pat. The login works. In the background, Pat is browsing through the Branch 2 repository.